The galactic front wasn't supposed to buckle. Not here. Not at Sector Theta 9, a fortified system ringed with Class 4 planetary defense arrays, manned by the finest coalition tacticians, and guarded by 3 orbital battle fortresses. But the alarms were screaming, and Admiral Coral of the Vethari Conclave could only stare at the tactical display with something resembling fear. On the hologrid, a single human vessel drifted like a broken tool, an ancient Terran cruiser, hull blackened and patched with haphazard repairs, systems flickering like it should have been decommissioned a century ago. Its ID signal read, TSV Gregarious. The onboard AI translated the call sign. Greg. 3 minutes earlier, Coral hadn't even looked at the human ship. Now he couldn't take his eyes off it. "What is that thing doing?" he demanded, mandibles clacking with panic. "It's spinning toward our flank." "Sir," his comms officer said, beads of sweat forming on her frills, "it's the human sent Greg." Greg had no rank, no fleet, no squad. He'd been a one-man strike asset, assigned to Terran Rapid Intervention Division Unit Zeta, now extinct. His ship, the TSV Gregarious, was a Frankenstein's monster of outdated modules, jury-rigged shielding, and fusion batteries scavenged from old mining rigs. Command tried to scrap both Greg and his ship half a dozen times. Every time, something happened. On one occasion, pirates boarded the scrapyard during dismantling. Greg activated his ship, launched 4 plasma harpoons into their cruiser's core, and radioed in with, "You're welcome." After that, EarthGov kept him on active reserve. 2 weeks before Sector Theta 9 fell, High Command reviewed the situation. "We've lost the Vanguard Corps," the Terran Admiral had muttered. "We're down to fallback options." "Which are?" asked another general. Well, the Admiral looked down the list. One name stood out. It was highlighted in red with several digital sticky notes marked, "Do not use unless absolutely necessary." "We send Greg." The Gregarious dropped out of warp like a dying bird, shedding 2 engine stabilizers and a coolant pump on arrival. The Vethari fleet had a good laugh, until Greg lit up 7 of their recon drones with a weapon no one could identify. It was a directional gravitic feedback cannon, cobbled together from a shipyard crane and 3 microwave emitters. When asked later where he got it, Greg shrugged and said, "Made it while waiting for coffee." He was old, gray-bearded, wore a faded flight suit with scorch marks and a smile that made even hardened troopers nervous. His speech was casual, jovial even, but his eyes were something else, dead calm and infinitely calculating. The Vethari launched a countermeasure swarm. Greg let it get within range before flipping his ship backward and detonating 3 EMP mines he had rigged on his own hull. The wave fried the swarm's logic cores. Then Greg activated an outdated railgun, the kind museums kept under glass, and fired a solid tungsten bolt through the control tower of the nearest orbital fortress. It collapsed in real time. Command on the Vethari dreadnought screamed, "That weapon is illegal." Greg just said, "So's orbital genocide, buddy." He ejected a broken console into space, replaced it with a lunchbox-sized terminal, and went back to humming old Terran rock tunes as his systems glitched and rebooted. The Vethari War Council panicked. They ordered reinforcements from nearby sectors. A Terran AI intercepted and scrambled their signal, rerouting it to a civilian cruise liner full of performers doing Shakespeare in orbit. Meanwhile, Greg deployed 5 drones. Not sleek, shiny drones. These looked like they were built in a garage. Each had a name painted in red: Bertha, Sadie, Tom, Carl, and Oops. "What's Oops for?" someone asked. "Trial run," Greg said. Oops launched early. It detonated inside a gravity well, creating a micro-black hole that swallowed a destroyer and then politely evaporated. Greg blinked. "Huh. Bit stronger than I expected." The Vethari landed shock troops on the 3rd planet. Greg, from orbit, dropped a modified mining drill encased in ceramic armor. It hit the surface like a meteor and burrowed into the crust. 20 minutes later, an underground geothermal plant exploded, triggering a chain reaction that destabilized the entire tectonic plate. "That was a beautiful continent," murmured the Vethari planetary overseer. "Yeah," Greg said over open comms, sipping what looked like tea. "Bet it was." At this point, the Vethari envoy tried to parley. "We wish to speak with your fleet command," the ambassador said. Greg appeared on screen, lit by sparking wires and backlit warning lights. Fleet commands busy. You get me. You are unqualified, the ambassador spat. Greg grinned. Sir, I am disqualified. The ambassador was silent. But I'm what you get. The screen blinked off. A Vethari war scientist, desperate to stop the tide, deployed a new weapon, tachyon phase scramblers designed to fragment enemy timelines. It was meant to shatter causality, make enemy maneuvers collapse under their own paradoxes. Greg's ship absorbed the attack like it was a warm breeze. His reply. He dropped an antique timepiece from his console out the airlock. It drifted toward the Vethari ship. It was just a wristwatch. Then the Vethari ship began aging backward. Systems turned to raw or data faded, and crew devolved to primordial forms before vanishing altogether. Greg stared out the viewport. Should have picked a better timeline. Greg made no planetary landing. He didn't need to. Communications fell apart. The Vethari morale crumbled. One of their own admirals detonated his engines trying to flee. Greg simply coasted in a lazy spin between destroyed fleets, occasionally firing small bursts from an exhaust port to realign himself. He's not even trying, a Vethari tech whispered. Greg heard. That's the trick, friend. You try, you fail. Me? I just do. EarthGov Command tried to recall him. Greg, you are causing interstellar panic. Return to base immediately. His only reply was, busy. He turned off the channel and lobbed a gravity-slicked asteroid into the second battle fortress. The rock broke apart midair. Each shard detonated with enough force to simulate a small sun. The fortress dimmed, cracked, and imploded. Greg stared at the wreckage. They should have made it sturdier. The Vethari tried one last act of defiance. They detonated the central sun of Theta 9, hoping to trap Greg in the supernova. Greg's ship shielded up, powered by what he referred to as experimental sun juice. No one knew what that meant. He passed through the explosion like it was fog. His ship emerged glowing, engines humming low, hull cracked but intact. Kinda warm, he muttered. EarthGov finally caught up with him 6 days later, long after Theta 9 had gone silent. Greg met with Terran intelligence aboard a neutral station. You destroyed 3 fleets, collapsed planetary infrastructure, destabilized a sun, and made a new black hole, said the agent. And? Greg asked. You used illegal tech, outdated gear, and no tactical support. And? We didn't even approve your mission. That's your fault, not mine. The Vethari Conclave formally surrendered 5 weeks later, not to Earth, but specifically to Greg. They broadcasted the message, to the Terran known as Greg, we yield all hostile claims. Please accept our surrender and, if possible, stay away from the rest of us. Greg read the statement, scratched his beard, and replied, all right. Then he went dark. No one's seen the Gregarious since. Now and then, ships report ghost signals from forgotten battlefields, strange pings and old Earth music over dead channels. Some say Greg's still out there, drifting through time and wreckage. The Galactic Council officially lists him as non-compliant asset class red. But in whispers, across bars and bunkers, the phrase means something else. Something deeper. Something fearful. Whenever a problem seems impossible, someone shrugs and says, send Greg. And every species knows what that means.